and welcome back to the Zen Tangling book. If you're a beginner wanting to learn to Zen Tangle, this is for you because I'm going to go through every detail as much as I can and hopefully answer any questions. So to start, we're using the Zen Tangle book. It's the cotton handmade rag paper journal from L'Amélie Paris, and it's filled with all these different Zen Tangles I do in colored order. And we're now at the turquoise. We're going to be using a shimmery one, very exciting, Coral Reef by KMS Watercolors. So I'm going to put that there. We're going to need, the paper. You do not need fancy paper like this at all. You can use Post-it notes. You can use printer paper. Here's one I did on just a piece of like mixed media paper with pen. You can also use any material. You don't have to use watercolors. That's just what I am doing today. And I get a bunch of questions on how to balance the watercolor. So we're gonna answer that, but any paper will do, truly. Then we're gonna need a cup of water, clean water. This is my paint water cup. A brush or a pen or a pencil or a crayon. I'm using the Princeton round number 2, which is what I use most of the time. Looks like this. So it has a bit of a kind of round edge. I've used this one a lot, so it might not look great, but it's a great brush. Then we're gonna need paper towel like this. I usually take a big sheet like this. I used this one a bit before. Fold it in 4, and I've done that twice, so I have quite a nice like pad to dab the water on. So we're gonna do a shape this time. Next time we're gonna do a line, because those are the 2 main ways I Zen Tangle, is with shape and with line. And I'll show you, nice cat hair in my water, that's awesome. I'll show you how that goes. So, put the focus on. First is to activate the watercolor. So they're hard, as you can see. And we just wanna get it liquidy. So you'll see like here, this is one I used recently. The focus is off, sorry about that. I kind of made a puddle and then would constantly pick out of the puddle. And that's why it's kind of disappeared in that way. Same with these, obviously. And that's what's gonna happen to shade Coral Reef. So, or I'll show you here. Sorry, I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay, basically you're gonna get the brush as wet as possible. Dab, 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 dab. And then I just like to run it round in circles on top of the color. And this is the case for any kind of palette. So, I'll show you some other ones I have. This is Kuretake, which I love. Different shapes, but same idea. It's hard and you just wanna wet, 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 wet. I don't know why I'm repeating words so many times. So that has kind of loosened it up a little, but it's nowhere near how what we want it to be. So again, you're gonna go back in. You're probably gonna lose some in the water. It's totally fine, it's just part of the process. And here now, see how it's really kind of juicy? That is what we're going for. So one more time for luck. Then you're just gonna get a nice amount on your brush. And we're gonna do triangles today because I figured everyone knows how to do a triangle. The cool part of them is it's not like a heart or a star where it needs to look like something. Any triangle angle will work. I remember in school learning about acute angles, which is when they're under, I don't know, maybe 90 degrees, something small. And I remember because they're so cute. Hilarious. Okay, so you're just gonna do a simple shape like this. You can do a mix of shapes. You can do circles, butterflies, peanuts, anything that you want. And you're just gonna put them all over the page. Like this. There's no particular order. I think if you're just starting, once you kind of have a gist of it, you can plan it out more. So for example, anywhere that's not a shape, the bigger the gaps, so like here compared to the rest of the page, is gonna be more straight lines. And where there's more shapes, there's gonna be more clustered lines. So that's just something to bear in mind. But every time I put my paintbrush down, I get some cat hair or sweater fuzz in it. We're just gonna do these all over. The idea is we're breaking up the page. So a blank page is kind of daunting. And the reason these are so fun to do for me, and I guess anyone who does them, is that you're just taking away that blankness, and then you can focus on simply enjoying. Boop. So, because a blank page is just not always the vibe, you know, unless you know exactly what you're doing. With this drawing, all you need to really think about is your first shape, what you want it to be, and then from there you can autopilot it, which I will explain. So let's do a few different sizes just for variety. Sometimes I don't like how the line looked and I'll just go over it again, and that's totally fine. So I had a lot of pigment here, less here. I always, well, not always, sometimes I don't, will dip the brush in the water before going back to pick up some. Even if there's a puddle of water, it just never hurts to be more moist, because you can always, oh sorry, I know people don't like that word. You can always go back and add more pigment on top. The only time I wouldn't do that is if there's really quite a good puddle going. Like this. We'll make all our shapes. This is a really pretty color. I'm glad we're using it today. For this one, I'm kind of gonna play with the edge of the page in my favor. Oops. So how I'm pressing on the brush too, I'm trying to use the same pressure at all times, and that's how you get the same amount of line, because, oh, that was a hard one, because the line is made by the bristles spreading out. So you want to spread them the same amount, and that just comes with practice. I get asked how I do such straight lines, and I do this a lot, like years and years and years in the making. And also that's just my style of art. I don't really have a better piece of advice except to focus. Okay, so here we have our shapes. What we're gonna do now is start Zen tangling. So this I like to call phase 1. We're then gonna start Zen tangling phase 2, which is to go inside the shapes. So I don't wanna get my hand in anywhere that's wet. So we're actually just gonna turn this to find the best place for my arm to be, to get as many as we can in that time. And I figure if my arm is here, I'm not touching any, I can do these 4 and we'll get to those later. So that's why that's happening. So now we're just gonna go ahead and do the inlines. And my lines are pretty close to the previous line, but yours do not have to be. If you're nervous about them touching or you think it would irritate you, just make the spaces bigger. And you can always make them smaller again on your next one. I think the important part of doing these and really relaxing as you're doing them, which is the point to me, is to just enjoy the process and not the final piece. Like if you do so many of them, each one individually doesn't really matter too much. It's more the final, not the final, sorry, that's exactly what I was not saying, more the process. So we've done our inline. I'm also gonna sharpen the corners a little bit. I like to do that when there's a corner shape. Right here too. This is the Princeton Rad 2, as I said, and it's a really good brush for this because you could do straight lines and pointy corners. And we're just gonna keep filling in each shape until there's no more space to do so. When we get to an area like this where it would be really, really tight to do a new shape, also I want to add some color to that guy. I don't draw it as lines, I more start in the middle and then kind of go outwards, adding the corners. I think that gives me more precision, like so. How does that look? All right, nice. I'm gonna fix this one too. This color is so mermaidy. I hope you can see well through the camera. Okay, one down. So we're gonna remake our little pool. And actually I think I'm gonna do this one just angle-wise. There we go. See, now that I have quite a pool, I can just dip. And it also really saves time to make a pool because you have the same water to paint ratio already set for you. If the paint is still hard and doesn't have very much pigment, you have to activate it every time. You're gonna get different consistencies in transparency, which isn't a bad thing. That's just a question I get a lot, is how do you make it the same? There we go, looking pretty good. I usually do these right in the morning because A, best light in the studio for where I live, and B, it's a really nice, just like starting the day clearing exercise, similar to journaling or something. It just sets a tone of non-rushness. But this is, of course, if you have a random hour and a half, which is around how long these take me to devote to that. And if you don't, that's cool. You can always just do piece by piece and have it as a little companion to look forward to. So for example, we could have done this triangle, then I could have gone about my day just to like kind of set it up with a little bit of peace. And then I could come back tomorrow and do this one. And maybe tomorrow I have lots of time so I can do two. Or you know you're probably picking up what I'm putting down. There's no pressure to do it all in one go. I am a artist for my job, right? So I can do that, but I realize that's not everyone's cup of tea. Airplane. I also find the better I focus, the straighter the lines are. So, I mean, I'm talking now and it's turning out okay, but I kind of tend to do a few little mess ups if I'm talking. And we're gonna do the same with the little, just painting the shape in here. Okay, nice. How's it looking for you? We can go a little closer now, can't we? Right here. Just focusing this, sorry. I'm gonna put this paint in so you can see. And so the paint might kind of become all lumpy, and I like to pat it down. It doesn't help with the painting, it just makes me feel better. Oh, one very important thing I forgot to mention, which actually doesn't matter as much with triangles, is as we do these inlines, we're not trying to make more triangles. We're trying to trace the lines that already were. So the actual thing, that's the first shape, doesn't matter past phase one. So I'll try and show you what I mean when we have a bit that makes a little more sense for. We'll get there. So sometimes the paper was kind of rough there. I'm just gonna repaint that one because I like how that would look better. We're gonna go in here, make our little inside right there. Now we can move the book again and go back to these two nice ones over here. Okay, I guess these are pretty straight, so I can't show you what I was talking about, but we will get there. the way all the shapes intermingle. Triangles are really fun to do because as they come closer and grow and we Zentangle them, like this area, for example, is probably going to become its own triangle. I would say triangles are a good shape to start with because they're pretty simple and not too demanding. Lovely. Oh, our second cat hair of the day. Oh, actually that looks like fluff from my sweater. Ha. So right now my hand is on the other triangle. I hope it's dried. Yes. I've also done some pieces where the space between the lines gets bigger and smaller as it goes intentionally, and those look kind of cool. I actually filmed one at the end of last week that I'm going to post soon on TikTok and Shorts. So keep your eyes peeled. It's a rainbow one. I'm for sure going to do multiple colors. I know I've said that for a while and I haven't done it, but that's because I haven't really felt like it yet, but I will. We're not in a rush over here. I've realized I really just don't like rushing. It makes me feel so uncomfortable. I used to be such a rusher because I couldn't be on time for anything. But now I just so much prefer like having 10 minutes instead of, what am I saying? Having a 10-minute leeway. So if I know I have to leave at 12, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna be ready at 11:45. It's just a bit nicer. Okay, we're on our last one right here, this nice little triangle. So soon, once we outline this, this is gonna become its own little sliver, and I think that's gonna be quite sweet. Perfect, and crisp up that little edge. So obviously the more water that's on your brush, the more see-through the paint is going to be. Because what makes it glide is, of course, the water. So when it's a tight shape like this, I actually don't go all the way to the corners on the first round, on the painting of it, because, unless I can get a good angle like I could right there, because I think it looks cleaner to then go in with just this little tip right there and draw it in. Like so. That one I got a good angle. Now, often we're faced with these decisions where I don't know if I should do a little bit in there or not. I'm leaning toward no, because this, at its furthest distance, this gap is around the same as these gaps, and so that feels pretty consistent to me. Okay. So now we have our nice triangular page. This kind of looks like sailing flags. Okay. So there are a few ways to do this now. We can go outward from each shape, which is a lot of fun, or we can go along the bottom doing straight line, And as soon as you hit another shape, instead of crossing it, you're going to pivot and make your way around whatever that shape is. Do that till you get here. Boom, 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 boom. But I think what is more fun to do if you're just getting started is to go around the outside of the shapes. So let's go. Let's do this one right here. So the exact same we were doing on the inside, but on the outside. That's actually going to be a tricky angle because these are wet. So I'm going to do this guy. And then turn the page so I have a safe space to rest my hand. Nice. So again, almost at every point there's decisions to be made here, but they're not like hard decisions. They're like easy. I'm just putting colors on a page. Doesn't really matter about anything decisions. We can keep going around this one until we start to hit the others, or we can do each one and they all expand at the same time, which I tend to like to do. And I just started, so I guess that is what we're doing. So this isn't going to carry all the way, so I'm actually just going to dip, pick up right where I left off. Crisp that up right here. Lovely. Ooh, that's a close one. I find that the lines are wobbliest when I don't have a good place to rest my wrist. So if you don't want wobbly, make sure you have a great little spot for that. Also, if you're wondering what is below this, I'll give you a sneak peek. Ovals. I'm gonna post that soon. I left this page blank because I filmed these YouTube ones in one go, and I put my phone on airplane mode so I don't get any calls or anything. And I'd planned to do it next, but the day I was meant to do that, I actually had to wait for a phone call. So I decided to just do my next one instead and come back to this. Again, we're running out, so let me put that in. We're just gonna re-up, which is all good. It's gonna get exciting once the shapes start to hit, I promise. Although maybe it's already exciting for you, and if it is, we'd definitely be friends. Because I find this really fun. This is a hard one to get straight. That's okay. Okay, we're very close to the edge of the page right there. Just a good thing to notice. And you'll see how the colors are darker until they dry. That's because the water evaporates and the water was diluting them, so they look lighter. Okay, now this is going to be interesting. Sometimes when it's very close to the edge like this, I'll put something under here so I can see it better and make sure I don't go off the edge. There's a slope there and I was getting stuck, but that's okay. That'll do. So I didn't make this one go far enough down. So I'm going to start this where I think it should be. And we're going to go connect them in just a moment. With the tip of our brush, like that. we have this nice little negative sliver I was talking about earlier. And we're gonna fill that in. I'm just holding it gently so I can see the edge. Okay, and again. Now the page is kind of folded over. Oh no, it's not. I can do a little one. Go on. Okay. So now we're gonna do these final two. Oh gosh, I hope that was all in frame. I have absolutely no idea, sorry. Great, now I want to add a little more pigment to this corner. It seemed to dry up there. Nice. Especially when I use a sparkly paint, I really like it to be opaque because then I get more sparkles. Whereas if something is not, I kind of like to see where it's more or less diluted just for variety. So that's why I like using two different kinds of paint too. I mean, I actually use a lot of different kinds of paint, but variation in watercolor in this book, just so everything's a little different, even though it's maybe a micro difference to someone, but we're detail-oriented people on this channel. Okay, so now we've done a line around every triangle. And we don't need to start from where we were. I'm actually gonna start again from helicopter, from exactly where I was because I had a good angle for there, and then we're gonna see where that takes us. We obviously can have an idea of how this is going to look, but we can't know for sure because we don't know if we wiggle or something, that's going to change the whole outcome of the piece. And we obviously need to move around that because it is part of the piece. Oftentimes I get asked what happens if I mess up, and I don't really see it like that. Like whatever line was made is how it looks. And so we're just going to keep going around it. So let me clean that up right there. Nice. So on that note, oh no, I've lost it. Oh, I got it back. I like these because you can't attach too much outcome to what you're doing because you can have an outline, but you really don't know for sure. Let's make this pointy at the top. So this is going to be our first area where it makes a new triangle like that because it can't go through there. So that's going to be great. Okay, so if this was completely its own little section now, as in if it went to these edges, I would fill it in, but I'm not going to quite yet. So we're gonna move into these middle two. Let's see if we can go a bit closer. Okay. See how my pool is looking? This looks dry, yep, so I can rest my arm on that corner. forget if I already said this, but with angles like this, you want to go a little further than you think you should, because that's where it fits best. I find anyway. Also, this is just the way that I do these, but it's not right or wrong. It's just, like, I didn't make up Zentangles. There's something that's been around for ages. Someone actually coined the term Zentangle, and I need to remind myself of her name. But the actual process of just doing lines and lines and lines is, what's a good example? It's like brushing your hair or showering. Like, everyone has a bit of a different way to do it. So if something we're doing today doesn't really sit right with you or feel that fun, just do it a different way. You're allowed. So this one went way further because this gap is a little wider. So we have to factor that into where the tip ends up. Okay, then we're gonna move along to these two. And soon these are gonna touch this. Actually, let's crisp that up there. We're gonna start getting our little negative space shape soon. So that really dried up right there, but I just felt like continuing the same gesture. So we're gonna add to it ever so slightly. I love doing this shapes outward method because it feels like the shapes are just kind of growing slowly. It's like, I kind of envision them being like things in a petri dish. I know things isn't the right term, but I can't think of what the right one is. And just kind of like slowly getting bigger and bigger till they take up the whole petri dish or paper. So here, I like to not go quite to the edge of the page. So we're just gonna go right there. Now we'll do this guy. And we finished one of his sides, so it's just two now. Really nice helicopter ambiance. Okay, so look what we've done. We've made a little area, actually. Oh, our fourth cat hair, nice. I'm gonna make that better angle. Okay, so now we can paint this negative space as if it were its own shape. So now it's a triangle with one side that is this page edge. So now we're back to doing inlines if you shift your perspective. Pretty cool, right? And because it's coming in from both sides, it shrinks pretty quickly. it being the negative space. So we're gonna do our final line. Oh my gosh, I just realized this color is kind of an Eagles color, and they won the Super Bowl yesterday. Okay. Colors keep coming that make sense for something going on culturally. Like at Halloween, I happen to be on the oranges. I just find that kind of cool. That happens. Okay. So here's how we're looking. It is growing pretty fast. Now what we do is going to change the outcome of the piece. So I'm trying to think what I want it to look like. One option, sorry, you're shaking there, is to go up here. And that'll be kind of like the line we mentioned at the start, where you go along and then just around. We could do this one here, which will make this middle Christmas tree-esque area, or we can do this middle Christmas tree-esque area. And I think it might be fun to do this bottom one, just so you can see what that would look like to do the line across method. Sorry, I think my paint keeps getting out of the frame here. Okay, so, oh wait, I'm not gonna do the line across quite like I described, but we'll just go around this one. Like this. So here it's going to be a tight little area, so I'm going to be quiet so I can focus on that. Oh, I got my hand in there. Now it's a very long area though, so I'm going to go as far as I feel comfortable, then re-up. Okay, we did it, cool. If anyone who is watching this works for the city of West Hollywood, could you please comment why there are always helicopters around here? Always. I have the helicopter tracking app, and so many of them are where it says like where they came from and where they're going, and then the type of aircraft and like whether it's police or whatever. And so many of the ones around here just don't have anything. And that makes me A, suspicious, and B, a bit annoyed. Because I'm like, what is the sound for? I'd love to know. I'm a bit sound sensitive, and I don't like too many sounds at the same time. So I don't love it. Okay, actually here, this is cool. I like that we did this because, can you see okay? Yeah, I think so. Because we're gonna do that same pattern again, but instead, because this is so close here, it's gonna take us all around this one, boom, 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 boom. How fun. So what I was really not very well explaining before about just following the contours of the line exactly and not trying to just draw another, in this example, triangle, I realized this isn't the best shape for explaining that, but I'm gonna do another intro to Zentangle video with the line method, and that's gonna be great for that, so keep an eye out. Okay, now, this is harder for me to do with my wrist angle, so we're gonna start from up here. I always just start from the area that I feel like will give me the best swooshing potential. Great, look at this coming together of, oops, really blobbed that out, coming together of corners. I'm happy with that. I'm going to pigment this a little more, and this is a tricky one because we actually can't go high enough to, wait, there you go, sorry. I can't actually go high enough to make this the point it should be. So we are gonna even take it around this shape here. Who knew so many would be swallowed up in this one line? Then, so that there isn't this weird gap, we're gonna give this the point recognition it deserves. Excellent, okay. And we just keep going. I have a really sudden urge to watch 17 again. I don't know why. Great. I like how that looks. And we're about to create another negative space triangle up here. Excuse me. So we've gone as close as we can to the top and closed out. So we have that to play with later. I like this point meeting of 3 corners that's going to happen a few times. That's cool. This color is so extravagant. Be nice for like a winter wedding guest dress color. I actually like to give my Christmas gifts a wrapping theme when I have the energy, which is most years, not this year, but that's okay. And I feel like this paper with like silver ribbons could be really nice. I'll put that in my list. Okay, now we have created a Nepal flag shape over here because we've connected these two, which is a common theme in the triangles and tangles. We're gonna have another one right here. This has made quite a big gap between the lines. I don't know why that happened, but it doesn't really matter. It's just how it is. It's kind of like when you have a child, which I do not, but I'm just guessing, you hopefully aren't trying to make it a specific thing. Like you need to play the violin, or, oh my God, full circle to 17 again. He wanted him to play basketball, didn't he? Or am I thinking of High School Musical? Anyways, I think if you love someone super purely, you just want them to be them, right? So I'm not, and I love my Zentangle, I guess, in my analogy. So I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm trying to fit you into this shape and make you exactly as I want you to be. Like if the line is wider and the gap is more, that's just how it is. Okay, we've run into this pickle again, haven't we? What I'm gonna do, because I'm not sure what the best course of action is at this time, is I'm gonna do from the other side and see where that takes us. The good thing about these two is if there's a bit you're not sure about, there's usually always another area you can work on until you work it out. So no pressure to decide everything right away. Do you know what? I think I might just go like this. We did it. Which isn't quite following the contours, but doing my best out here. Again, this is a tricky one, but I think it's just big enough that I'm gonna go through it using skinny brush, which is the side like this. Oh, we have some kissing over here. That's what happens when the lines touch. You know what? I don't love how that looks, but doesn't really matter. So now we have a few negative space areas, which is pretty cool. We have triangle, 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 Nepal flag, kind of like mountains. And then this is definitely mountains right here. Let's work on these because we can just go. Can you believe I just did that? Again, it's just how it is. I think it's thin enough. It was just the point of my brush that I'm not going to turn it into a line. I'm just going to kind of move around it. So we're going to go, as I was saying, around these single line until it turns into different sections, each triangle, and then we're going to inline each triangle. That covered it up pretty well, I'd say. When we get close to the edge of the page, it gets kind of tricky because this is lolloping over and I can't necessarily see past a certain point and the brush can hit. So if you're just starting, I would for sure recommend doing a paper that's more flat, like a single sheet. Cool. Let's come a little closer. So here, unintentionally, it's actually curved a bit, see that? So we're not gonna force a straight line on top of it, because this is just how the picture is. So we're gonna go with the flow and curve around. And if you do it that way, because the curve kind of happened organically, I don't know why, but it doesn't look too crazy. The next one follows it pretty organically, and you can't even really most of the time pinpoint where that started. It's just, it is. And if you look at this cool picture and your focus is on pinpointing where the different part is, it's kind of lame. Okay, nice. So this is its own section now. I'm gonna peel this back. I'm gonna have to turn the page to get those closer together, but we'll deal with that when we can chunk a bunch of those together. And so I'm gonna do as many lines as I can while I have this angle, and then we'll go in and deal with those. That was a good one. I like to think of these paintings as just like a exercise to keep the creative juices on a simmer. We don't want them to dry up, because then it's really hard to get back into creativity. So if there's always a little bit of something bubbling, I think that's the best way to be. So again, we're gonna ride that curve. An analogy I like to use to myself is that I imagine the brush and then the line that's already down, so in this case right here, are magnets, and this is just trying to, just following it exactly because they're magneted together, not magneted together. You know what that is. Attracted, there we go, thank you. And sometimes they are so attracted to each other that they kiss. Okay, I think I can probably do one more layer before we need to turn it so we can get a better view on what is happening. Wow, I have a huge chunk of paint on my brush right now. That was not on purpose. You might have a good view of that, but I can't really see it. So I'm gonna just go along here. Oh, I hear Parmesan at the door. I'm gonna go get her. Count to 5. Come on. Okay, now we are back here again, following along. What's up, Parmesan? This part here, I think we can actually do quite a lot of while I have this angle. So let's close that up. I'm kind of just eyeballing how far back it would go. Hey, Parm. She's on the table. Okay, so let's see how we did. Honestly, pretty good. So now I'm gonna go back and just add to any of these that I think might need a little more. Oops, look what I just did, but that's okay. Watch this. Okay, those look pretty good to me. So now we'll just close up these triangles. If you need to add more pigment in, the water is already there, so the path was made for you. So it's pretty simple to go back in and just lightly touch with more pigment, and it should spread out pretty well, which makes less work for us on getting it precise again. Parmesan, you could come hang out over here, you know. I will not talk back to my cat on the internet, so that's the last thing I'll say. I'm sorry, but she literally says, Mom, can you hear that? Hope none of my crushes are watching this. But I guess it's out of my control. That looks a bit funny. Oh well. It's really difficult when the page is over like this. It kind of feels like something's watching you, which kills the vibe, because the whole hey Parmesan, the whole intention of this is to zone out. And look who it is. Oh. And that's not what you want when you're trying to zone out, is to be like worrying what someone else thinks. Someone else being a paper, but you know what I mean. It's like the same energy of not really having peace of privacy or whatever. So I'm excited to get past this area. Which we have just done. Lovely. And there's 2 more. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to connect these because I couldn't see that before. And see how this goes in a little bit? We're going to follow that ever so slightly. Parmesan, what are you looking at? Oh, I wasn't going to talk to her. Okay, see this wave that's now happening, or like a undulation? It's quite sweet. Tucking my brush under the paper as best I can. I like to get this part done, so then we can just enjoy the other space. Okay, so now that we have this part is going to be all the same angle repetitively because we're not turning any corners. So I'm going to move the book until I have the best angle from my hand, which actually I think is right here. Perfect. So we can go in and do that. Hey, it's not bath time. So this is just like the freedom to make really straight lines. At different areas, there's different places to practice different parts, and this is a good one for that. There's also practicing skinny brush and control, and every part of the piece teaches you something different. Even this canopy over the edge on this side teaches I have to hold my brush in a different way. I have to usually hold it a little further or kind of just at a funky angle, and it helps me to practice that. So even if an overall experience isn't 100% positive, which whatever is, I find I feel better when I just focus on what positive parts it has and what it's, not to be cliche, but what I'm learning from it. Obviously, if there are really negative parts and you only think about the positive, that's very bizarre, but I don't think that's really happening here, as we just watercolor on some paper, you know? Okay, so let's do this area. So this, because the bottom is the edge of the paper, is just going to be 2 lines like this. So I want to move this around until I have the best place for both of those angles, which I think is right here. We're going to put the paint back in the frame. And I'm going to press it all down because it's kind of fallen out a little bit. One angle. Second angle. So what we're doing right now is pretending that this shape is like an original triangle we started with. So edge, edge, edge. And now we're just going to do all the inlines for it like we did at the start. Oh wait, we're not going to do the straight line there actually. So kind of scratch what I just said, sorta. You could do that though, by the way. That's totally a way to go about it, like using the edge of the paper as a line. I kind of like consistency, and I haven't been doing that for the rest of the piece, so I'm not going to, but that is also a fun thing to do. We can do one like that soon if you would want to see it. Excellent. Okay, let's do the Nepal flag over here. Although it's not going to be the Nepal flag for much longer. We'll do one line and it's going to go, but actually it kind of looks like mountains right here. And so I'm going to reframe it to be mountains. Now that water is really in the way of my arm, so I'm going to put it over there. Now we're gonna have that same thing again where we're not sure what to do here, and I'm gonna decide it's a straight line. So, because this is the same inline, I don't mind when they connect. So we're just gonna complete the, not the circumference of the shape, but the outline, and it just becomes a bikini top, right, without straps. And now we've made two little mountains. I was just in the mountains, so I'm feeling drawn to them. I wonder if my neighbors know that their conversation they're having right now is going on YouTube. Probably not. Okay, one mountain down. It's really interesting. My friend Theo was telling me yesterday that he studies best when there's someone else talking in the background, like a podcast or something. And I was so shocked because I was like, I can't focus if there's another voice going on, like let alone another sound, but too many words. I'm like, what? I can't do that. How do you do that? And he said that he thinks he was conditioned that way because in school, as the person was talking, the teacher, and he was taking notes, he kind of wasn't soothed, but like got used to the feeling of someone talking as he was learning. So now it helps him. And I thought that was so cool. Just that I hadn't thought about it like that. And there's so many different ways people learn stuff. So if I am in the background when you're doing something right now, I hope you're being the best one. Okay, let's take an overview look at how it's all looking because it's feeling good to me. So we have this, this, and this. This is one shape and it's about to become two. I think we'll leave that for the end, or actually it could be cool to have this blank space in the middle at the end. I haven't done that in a while. So we're gonna go like this. Come a bit closer. And for angle purposes, I'm gonna do this one first. So I think this is actually sloping a little bit. So we're gonna play on that. And slope our line. Cool, so now we have this, what does this look like? Kind of like, it's giving the Walt Disney Music Hall in downtown LA. Next time I make a video, I'll try and time it so there isn't construction happening outside. I don't know how to do that because it just randomly happens all the time, but that's just how today's going, I guess. Okay, so I'm doing this biggest line first and then the two edge ones because I feel like I can get the best angle for this one. So getting this as best I can will dictate the rest of the shape. Whoa, somebody just jumped on the table. Hello. So this shape is really shrinking, but it's kind of holding its shape. It's a bit like a roof that's sagging slightly, that's inverted as well. It's really fun to talk to yourself about what the negative spaces look like. I just feel like it's kind of like a self-made I Spy. Yeah? There's a lot of noises going on right now. Okay, great. And we could do a tiny little dude in there. Okay, now let's move on to this corner. I quite like doing the corners. Okay. Again, an area to just practice our straight lines. And this one is not completely straight. See, it undulates a little. So we're not exactly practicing straight lines, we're practicing straight lines in the magnet sense that I was talking about earlier. Cool. I really like how that looks on top of the one below it. It's nice. So now we are left with this shape in the middle. And I think it might be kind of satisfying to do this shape and then have the final part like shrink and close up. So let's do this larger area. Sorry if this is not very nice that it's moving a lot. Let's do this larger one first. Now this one is a little smaller than what was originally smaller. Funny how things change. Now I still have a lot of paint on my brush, so I'm actually going to just keep going and not dip. I like that about the smaller shapes, is less dipping. Not that the dipping is bad, but I'm just, hey Parmesan. I just like to be in the flow for longer. And we're gonna actually draw our shape in here. Cool, maybe a little right there. Okay, so our final shot is going to be of the whole book. And the triangles are gonna grow out and fill up the page. Look, it's really cute how there's these little tiny ones every so often. And these little tiny ones aren't only the original shapes. Like this was made by the shapes expanding, as was this, as was this, as was this one that we're doing now. So that's just a bit fun to see. Okay. Final one, Parmesan, then we can go hang out. So because it's shrinking from each side, we're really not going to need too many triangles inside because the shape is going to get really small until it disappears. And we're going to crisp up that little corner. And there we have it. Thank you. So that is intro to Zentangle's shape. Thanks for coming to class today. Not really, thanks for watching this video. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know if I didn't answer anything. This is kind of like innate to me, right? So I don't always think about having to explain any bit. And so if there's anything I missed, just let me know. I'll post that soon on TikTok and Shorts. And then after, I can't remember what I was gonna do. I might even change my mind, so whatever. But yeah, this was so fun. See you later.